Halo 3 Recon. If you're anything like me, you hear that phrase and you start thinking about the good old days. Wearing the Recon set was the ultimate power move in Halo 3. It represents the culmination of a series of challenges that showed extreme dedication. To get this set, you had to complete Vidmaster. This included reaching the rank of Lieutenant, completing a mission on Legendary with everyone in Ghosts, logging in on a specific day and playing ranked with 7 XP, finding all the Mythic Map Skulls, passing the 4th set in Firefight on Heroic difficulty, completing Coastal Highway without Warthogs or Scorpions, and finally finishing any level on Legendary without shooting or throwing a grenade. For doing all this, you got the Recon set, the ultimate bragging rights for any Halo 3 player. Games today have strayed from this in favor of quick money grabs in the form of paid cosmetics that undercut the value of earning your loot in the game. Star Citizen, unfortunately, is no better. While their monetization scheme is understandable, it does leave us wondering, what does long-term progression look like in a game that so far has been willing to sell you everything?
Everything's for sale, my friend. Everything. If I had a sister, I'd sell her in a second.
That leaves progression in a rough spot, or I should say it's always been there. The only true progression we currently have is AUEC, or earning more credits. What can you get with credits? More ships. And what do those ships enable you to do? Earn more credits. So once you have that last ship that you wanted, the game is basically over, unless you constantly come up with ways to keep yourself entertained. Now you can do that, but in a game that's trying to capture the imagination of millions of gamers, and with so much other fierce competition out there, that's a really bad strategy for a developer. Part of this is certainly due to the fluid nature of Star Citizen's development, and you can definitely make the argument of, well, why invest dev time in a game where wipes are at least still a possibility, albeit less and less frequent as time has gone on. But that argument also has the downside of constantly pushing out the goalposts of when we expect Star Citizen to behave like a game. With a focus on producing 4.0 and a true 1.0 experience, getting the game side of things figured out is critical. With fewer tech hurdles to overcome, the focus has been and needs to continue shifting to fleshing out the content and gameplay aspect of this otherwise great tech demo. Progression is how you do that. So what is progression? For the purpose of this video, we'll define this as giving players short, medium, and long-term goals. Your players need to feel like they have a sense of direction and something to work towards. Earning enough credits to get X item or ship is fine for a short-term goal, but the time invested and the payoff is also short-lived. As wipes become less and less common, it becomes increasingly apparent that we need much more than this. The Reputation is CIG's first stab at making medium and long-term goals. The current problem is, as you advance your reputation in any career path, you only gain access to higher AUEC earning potential. The higher paying mercenary missions might be more fun and challenging, but there's a growing emptiness as the AUEC earned has a lesser impact to your overall experience. With a few simple tweaks though, Reputation could be extremely valuable. Suppose you're doing mercenary missions around Hurston. By the nature of the totalitarian corporation and policies controlling the area, this is pretty hard to start off with, as Hurston does not allow weapon sales to civilians. So any tools of the trade you're using have to come from elsewhere, and only certain weapons are allowed to be carried through customs. Ergo, you might be starting off with just a sidearm. As you progress your reputation with the local security forces, you gain access to a full carry permit, which now allows you to carry any weapon class without being stopped or impeded at security checkpoints. Of course, you're still gaining access to higher difficulty missions with better payouts. To further aid you in this, progressing further might then give you access to Hurston Security's armorers. Going to any of the local businesses, you can now purchase Hurston Security armor sets through officially sanctioned dealers. Maxing out your reputation gives you access to the coveted Red Eye Artimex set. By initially placing limitations on players, you give them an added challenge. Then, by sprinkling rewards into the reputation system, players have discrete methods to measure their progression. I started off with no access to my full arsenal. Now I have it. I couldn't legally wear Hurston Security colors and armors. Now I have access to a light armor set, then the medium, the heavy, and then that Artimex set. You might be wondering though, if someone advances their rep in an area, what's to prevent someone else just buying armor from them and skipping all that grind for themselves? Well, there's a number of ways to mitigate this. Arguably, the true value of the Hurston Security armors is in the skins applied to them. You can separate these two elements such that having access to the shader is player specific and can't be sold. This could also apply to all subscriber gear and unique skins across the board. You can also have local factions be hostile to players wearing colors they haven't earned, something akin to Stolen Valor in the real world. I'm partial to separating it out as a skin that can be applied to armor, as that seems to mitigate some of the issues we face currently with paid gear, while also future-proofing it somewhat in the sense that you can buy armor elsewhere, apply your favorite skin, and not have to travel across multiple systems to get the color you want. It also more strictly enforces the idea that seeing a player wearing Hurston Security armors means that player did something to earn them. It's a way to show off and flaunt your achievements. Multiply this out to the other security factions in the game today, the criminal factions that will exist tomorrow, and the numerous other entities to exist in the future, and you've got a lot of medium-term goals for players to work for. But wait, there's more. Right now, the reputation is localized, such that you working for Hurston Security only earns you reputation for Hurston Security and does nothing to advance Crusader Security or anything else. There is not currently a Stanton Security freelancer that encapsulates the entire system. But what if there was? What if maxing out the reputation in any smaller area granted you a perk with this larger system security contractor? You might structure it such that earning max rep with the Blackjacks of ArcCorp is easier to entice players to do that one first. Then when they complete it, they earn a discount on ship components in the system. Or maybe they earn a rookie skin that can be applied to their ships. Checking off the next planet earns them an additional perk and skin, as well as a mounting reward for now having completed 2 planets and so on for the 3rd planet. Completing the entire system has to give you something real nice. It could be an exclusive skin for your armor, a special weapon variant. The possibilities are endless. An idea I'm partial to is making it such that this is the only way to gain access to a specific brand of FPS weapons. We've seen the recent showcase of the Volt weapons soon to come out. What if maxing out system rep was the only way to get access to the Volt arsenal? That would make these weapons a highly sought after treasure. Again, to prevent these top level players from flooding the market with Volt guns, there's a number of methods you can employ. Specific to weapons, you can have the batteries be an exclusive item sold only to permitted users and be considered contraband at security stations due to their volatile nature and ease for abuse. With durability elements being introduced for all items in the game, you can also have arms dealers only repair Volt weaponry when received from authorized agents. And if none of those ideas float your boat so far, there's still a lot of other options. Another one could be earning a ship outright that comes decked with the Stanton Enforcer skin, or maybe this is how you earn the right to buy property in corresponding monitored systems. It then goes without saying that if you have a reputation being earned at the planetary level that advances progression at the system level, then at some future point with multiple systems in the game, there's obviously room for earning things at an even higher region level as well. Perhaps the upper echelon of players is someone roaming around in their fighter that has the ultra exclusive skin for having completed the entire universe. At that point, they've officially just beat the game, at least until the next expansion introduces something that even they don't have. This also introduces a natural ebb and flow of traffic as players move system to system trying to earn new stuff. For instance, it pulls players into Pyro, where they may face added challenges to get the Pyro collectibles under their belt. Admittedly, this has all been framed from a combat perspective, which only represents a portion of the larger game. That's probably just because I myself largely play shooters, so that's how my reptile brain sees things. But I'm sure it's equally obvious that these still apply to industrial players as well, the unfortunate side being that their corresponding reputation factions have yet to be introduced. All of this encapsulates just one aspect of progression possible in a massive game like Star Citizen. These are also all medium-term goals in spite of how long they may take to complete. They're medium-term goals because they do have some type of ending that marks the task complete. A true long-term goal is something that will always be there, always be a way to spend your time, and always offer a challenge. Base building is the most obvious example of this that we know of. It stands to reason that you'll be working hard to pay the property taxes and security fees in systems where that applies. In low security zones, you'd be constantly maintaining your own security, which comes with its own cost. Keeping equipment functioning and farms productive also require user input and maintenance. And there's a number of arguments that long-term play feeds into proper org gameplay, but that deserves its own video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you'd like to see that one in the future. To increase the longevity of the reputation system and add long-term elements to it, being that it doesn't end, we can consider the competing factions in the game. Suppose that initially I find that the legal contractors offer the rewards I'm most interested in. This puts me at odds with the illegal factions, so I miss out on those rewards. Then, with a minor content refresh, let's say the headhunters start offering a skin for the railgun that I really want. I'd then have to grind reputation with headhunters to get it. This then starts draining my reputation with the legal factions I'd been working for previously, and when they offer something new, I have to do work for them again to get it. I know this may sound like a chore, but this is just one of many ways that games build longevity with their systems. You could easily make a comparison here between seasonal vendors in Destiny 2. Yet another long-term goal to implement may come in the form of widespread maintenance of your belongings. With wear and tear being implemented, your pristine ship won't stay that way forever, and components will have to be swapped out from time to time. CIG will also surely introduce new brands and types of components in the future, and it will be a constant challenge to dissect the meta for any particular ship. Another way to make this impactful, however, is to introduce specialized gear that offers maybe a 1 or 2% better performance over what you can buy in stores. If you lose these components and cannot replace them via claims due to their rarity, you can drive players to complete content to earn back those parts. For instance, if I want the fastest quantum drive that can still go across Stanton in my Gladius, I might have to do a raid and bring proof of it to a vendor. It could also be loot at the final chest you get to. This concept also ties in well with crafting in the future. If I've got the blueprint for that same quantum drive, maybe my challenge is finding the raw materials and components to create it. If I then sold these to other players, I'd have my own mini loop of tracking down these parts en masse to keep the wheels of commerce turning. And player trade is another fairly simple means of giving players long-term goals. I might specialize in hunting down particular components or crafting said component to then sell in a player commerce system. With what we've covered so far, it should be pretty clear that there is plenty of room for creativity for CIG to reward players and implement various kinds of progression, both with what we know they plan to do and with what I'd like to see them do. I want to end here with a bit of a warning. Put simply, you cannot have progression in a game where that can simply be undercut with a credit card. All value of everything I've described goes out the window if someone can simply buy it. You can never have the pride of wearing that Red Eye Artemex set if someone can just pay money and skip all the work you did to get it. I think this even applies to subscriber items and paid gear. Having these items enter the loot pool does devalue them for paying customers too. I think CIG really needs to start implementing two kinds of items. They can and should keep bolstering the roster of paid items as a way to make money. I'm totally fine with that. But these items need to be exclusive to paid customers, and likewise there needs to be distinct and separate items that can only be acquired in-game via progression, looting, crafting, etc. Both types of items need to be on an even playing field of value and quality as well. Think about all the pre-order bonuses you may have purchased that seemed so cool, only to be overshadowed by the cosmetic store a month later where the developers clearly spent the lion's share of time. Think about recent Call of Duty games. They have some operators that you can earn by playing the game. But then there's a massive in-game store where you can be Snoop Dogg and Nicki Minaj. the game wholesale abandons any semblance of a serious military shooter in favor of easy cash grabs from kids with too much credit card access. You don't end up seeing too many of the earnable skins because they're completely lacking compared to the VFX of a flaming skeleton. And to be clear, I am not advocating for these kinds of cosmetics in Star Citizen. I hate them in Call of Duty already, let's leave those kinds of over-the-top skins to the kiddos. But I am saying that if you earn something in-game, you should be just as likely to use that as you would something you paid for. Items earned in-game can't be seen as lesser to their paid counterparts. It might make short-term financial sense, especially in games like Call of Duty where it gets replaced each year. But for a game like Star Citizen that wants players to play forever, it's a great way to kneecap player interaction down the road. Coming full circle to Halo, the Recon set was the crowning achievement of a Halo 3 player. It stood above the EOD, Hayabusa, and everything else as the best a player could get. Then, Halo Reach came out, and it was a pre-order bonus. Suddenly, the Recon set that was so loved and fawned over became common and boring. By handing over a bit of cash early to Bungie, you guaranteed yourself Recon. But then you likely dropped it once you earned something else that not everyone was wearing all the time. For all the possible systems we can implement in a game like Star Citizen, it won't mean much so long as that progression can be undercut by the pledge store. So while selling cosmetics is totally fine in my mind, and there's numerous other things that predictably can and will be sold to players, there is a path forward where the pledge store doesn't taint the game and players can feel validated by their efforts. But it's going to require a lot of content in the game, and there needs to be exclusivity between these two primary sources of gear. Odd job from the editing bay here. I loved this latest episode of Inside Star Citizen. I think it showed a lot of what I'd like to see in the game going forward. And they talked a lot about contested zones, and I think that there's a great deal of potential there. If they introduce new rewards. If all you get at the end of that chest is more subscriber gear, it's going to be a pretty big slap in the face to all the players in the game. I'm already tired of getting subscriber gear in normal missions. I think it's a very lazy way to create content, and it's not very rewarding at the end of the day. If I do a challenging mission, I want to get something for doing that mission that I can only get by doing that mission. That level of exclusivity is what makes it a way to flaunt and show off later. If I'm showing off the same gear that my friend just bought in the store, there's really no sense of pride or accomplishment there. And I think we're at a point in the game's development where we can start expecting more content like this. A lot of the tech hurdles have been overcome, and we're to a point where the team really can start focusing on gameplay and filling out that narrative experience. And because of that, I think that we should start to see a lot more variety in armor types and aesthetics and things that players can customize to feel special. And if we don't get that, that's a really good way to choke growth for the game in the future. We've got a great foundation in Star Citizen. It's a pond that's a mile wide, but right now it's only an inch deep. Adding player progression and implementing these various kinds of player growth and experience is how you get it to feel like a full, cohesive experience. To wrap up, we talked about a lot of different kinds of progression that could exist in Star Citizen. Many of them are in the works already or are coming down the pipeline. And I had a lot of fun thinking about ways to make the game feel more rewarding, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the ideas I've put forward. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, this is Odd Job Entertainment, signing off. Games today have strayed from this path in favor of quick money grabs in the form of paid cosmetics. Undercut the value of earning your loot in the game. Games today have strayed from this path in the form Games today have strayed from this in favor of quick cash. Games today have strayed from this in the form of Games today have strayed from this in favor of quick money grabs in the form of paid cosmetics that undercut the value of earning your loot in-game. Games today have strayed from this in favor of quick money grabs that games today have